Next question, what's the core?
That's vegetable, right?
No. Quorum. I don't know what quorum is. It is the minimum accepted number of a particular group of people. A quorum? A quorum.
I think we do have our quorum.
I think we do have a quorum. Like, when I was in college back 1,000 years ago, if there was not 60% of the class in attendance, the class did not count. We had to do it again. Yeah. All right, where's my semester one people at? Self-identified.
Where's Matt?
Semester one.
Semester one.
Okay. This question is for semester one, and anyone who was not here the last time I did lab. Everybody else, hush for a minute. What does that say? Semester one, read it to me. Is that correct? Everybody else?
Yeah, they sound right.
Mostly right.
Nobody was paying attention last year either. Great. Okay. This is a primer on biblical archaeology and Christian apologetics. What is a primer? Glad you asked. That's a primer. It's the most very basic, down-to-earth part of something that we can put together. Last year, about this time actually, I guess this is what we, I did a primer on neurolinguistic programming and how it responds and works with the concept of Christian coaching. At that point, I distilled about 12 years of research down into the hour that I had off. This time, we're only about 6 years of research down to the hour, so it should go much quicker. All right. So, continuing our what is questions.
Mike, what'd you say a primer was again?
A primer is a very basic, elementary introduction to a concept. As simple as it can get. That book says see, spot, run. Next page, run, spot, run. Huh? What is apologetics? Not everybody at once. Anybody have a definition for apologetics?
Isn't it, don't they defend the faith?
Very good. Practice, I promise I can talk this. The practice of defending a religious doctrine through reasoned argumentation and discourse. Now, that is apologetics as a whole, regardless of what religion it is they are defending. There's Islamic apologists, etc. Okay?
Right.
What is reasoned argumentation for our purposes today? What does it matter?
Is that when you make an argument with someone, you have a really good point?
There you go. All right, for our purposes today, we're going to talk about empirical data, which is surviving documents, particularly extra-biblical documents. I did something for the first time today in my entire life. It may not ever happen again. I consulted the Quran for this lesson tonight. Okay, more on that later. All right, reasoned argumentation also includes eyewitness accounts. And in everything, there is going to be an aspect of belief that is associated. Here's a great example. I worked with a guy one time that come up to me for whatever reason said, man, I just feel like I can tell you I'm an atheist. So, oh, you're Christian, well, I just want to tell you I'm an atheist. I'm like, man, I wish I had your faith. And he's like, what? I said, you have enough faith in yourself to believe what you believe is correct. You're willing to risk eternity for it. I don't have enough faith.
Right?
In me. All right, so belief is always what? Hey, there's a slide for that. Nice. So, empirical data plus belief is Christian apologetics. That's where you're going to find it tonight. Defending the truth of the Bible. We're not talking about Christian apologetics. Historically, geographically, and scientifically. And let me go ahead and tell you, this gets over my head very quickly. I was thinking for a little while today, just being honest with you. So, here's where it gets fun. The burden of proof.
Will we have, do we need to write that down?
I will send these slides to anyone who wants them,
Okay.
including my sources.
I don't
You
write
guys
them.
catch me afterwards. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, the burden of proof. Here's the question. Did I go to Burger King for breakfast last Wednesday morning?
No.
Yeah, it's too specific.
Anybody?
I need more information to be able to give you a clear answer.
There you go. We have empirical data points that we're going to discuss. All right? So, if, hypothetically, I did go to Burger King for breakfast last Wednesday, you could have seen my truck in the drive-thru. Right?
Right.
Okay. And my office has got a little strip mall right behind there. Anybody in that strip mall could have easily looked over and seen my truck in the drive-thru at Burger King Wednesday morning. Does that prove I had breakfast from Burger King Wednesday morning? Does not. There could easily be another handsome fat guy in a red Trailblazer at the Burger King that's literally right across from his office. It is not empirical proof. Okay? But what if there was an eyewitness? What if Carly was actually at work a little bit earlier and looked out the front window and she saw me and my truck in the Burger King drive-thru? And then what if I happened to walk in the front door of my office with a sack and a cup of coffee, and both of those said Burger King? And what if my wife saw the security alert, somebody walked in the door, she glanced over, and she saw that I had a sack that said Burger King and a cup that said Burger King? And what if later that day, in the trash can right beside my desk, there was an empty bag and an empty cup from Burger King? Would you therefore be able to safely assume that I had Burger King for breakfast last Wednesday?
I don't know, I need to see the receipts.
The
You see the,
receipts.
I do not say the receipts.
The receipt.
Okay? Do you understand the difference?
Yes.
Carly was there. She saw it. By the way, this is purely hypothetical. I did not eat Burger King last Wednesday for breakfast. It was Carl's Jr. Moving right along.
Carly, you confirm?
Yeah.
Anything you offer?
All right, so here's the example we are going to look at tonight. You ready? What's that?
Ramsey's.
Moses!
Must have split the Red Sea.
Now, anybody who's been in my class is going to appreciate this. Yes. All right, so there is a caucus that claims the Exodus is impossible because the children of Israel were never in Egypt to begin with. It is interesting. So we're going to take a look at the empirical data and see what it shows us. Exodus 1, wow, I can't talk, I promise. Exodus 1:11 talks about two cities, Pithom and Ramses, where the children of Israel were in slavery to build grain silos. Y'all remember this story right here?
Okay.
This continued. But what Joseph had set up for storing grain in the good times to prepare for the bad times continued and expanded after his life and death. We're now some 400 odd years in the future, this is still happening. We're still building cities and granaries to store grain. Hey, Ramses has been found by archaeologists and identified as a granary. Pithom has been found by archaeologists and identified as a granary. And Exodus, granary, a storage,
Storehouse for grain.
huge bin,
Oh, okay.
city,
Right, okay.
or like a bunch of them, yeah? All right, Ramses is also the city where Moses and Pharaoh will interact with them. Let my people go, and Pharaoh's like, no, and then bad things happen, and then repeat that 10 times, okay? This is probably the same palace in the same city where Moses was actually raised. Remember little baby in the bush? There's no VeggieTales for that, but I'll spare you where no VeggieTales references for right now. Okay? More VeggieTales. Is that a baby pickle? Anyhow, less than 2 miles from this site in Ramses is a garrison. What's a garrison?
It's like a group of soldiers, right?
Is a fort assembling of soldiers. Guess what stored at that particular garrison? You're getting ahead of me, yes, but not chariots, but just chariots. 600 chariots of the best of Pharaoh's army.
Right.
Okay? These are like 1500 BC Navy SEALs. There is such a thing, okay? They're the best. Now, why does Pharaoh have a garrison outpost in Ramses, which is a slave city, where they're building a granary? Why is there a palace there? Because it's right beside the Mediterranean Sea. It's a beach house. Okay? All that empirical data. Now, let's talk about this lovely fella right here. Amenhotep II. Now, is anybody surprised to see a picture of a mummy of the Pharaoh from the story of the Red Sea crossing? Anybody?
Yeah.
Have you heard that Pharaoh died in the Red Sea?
Oh, yeah,
The Bible does not state that Pharaoh died.
that's true.
His entire host died.
Right.
As a king and military commander, he would have been the very last one in the pack,
Right.
all the way in the back, and quite possibly also a coward. He sends his men where he was not willing to go.
Right.
Okay? Pharaohs were big on keeping track of the military campaigns, what we did, who we captured, what spoils we brought back. Okay? Prior to the time of the Exodus, Amenhotep II, there's a total of 6 of them, has gone on 3 major military campaigns, spoils of war, expanding all that. Okay? After the time of the Exodus, he goes on one more military campaign. So that's a total of 4 for his entire pharaohship, space, whatever. The previous pharaoh, who was Thutmose III, did 18 military excursions in roughly the same amount of time. So you got the guy before him does 18, and it's considered by some the high point of Egyptian culture. Like there's just money and slaves and building stuff and storing grain. It's like ancient Egypt at its absolute best. The very next, total of 4, and 1 after the Exodus. Would you like to know what that military campaign after the Exodus was?
Yes.
For his last campaign in Levant, which is near the Sea of Galilee, Amenhotep II. Now, again, empirical data. They wrote records on stone tablets. I tried to find a picture of this particular one to show it to you. It's 300,000. So, have to take my word for it. Amenhotep II seized horses, livestock, 101,128 slaves, and 1,092 chariots. So, let's think. Just add all these plagues. Livestock's gone. Grain's gone. Now, your slaves are gone. Now, chariots are gone. A lot of your army's gone. Does all that add up to the Exodus being real? Maybe, maybe not, but it's looking pretty good at this point.
Getting closer.
It's getting closer. All right, continuing on with
So
Amelia.
his military campaign was to take all that stuff? Is that what he did after the Exodus? Was
Yes.
to take all the chariots and stuff? Is that? okay.
Correct. He was basically replenishing
Okay.
Egypt.
So you're saying Amenhotep II was the pharaoh that was Ramses? That Charles Smith?
We'll come back to that.
Okay.
This is where my brain started hurting today.
Okay.
Mine too.
All right, so does that mean that Amenhotep II was in fact the pharaoh of the Exodus? I don't know, but these were buried with him. We have a chariot. It's hard to see, but there's a dude right there being pursued by the chariot. What does this look like? What does this look like?
Water.
That's curious.
Yeah.
Right beside it, we found this one. We have a little clearer picture of the dude with a spear chasing the guy with a stick. What's happening immediately after the guy with the stick? Water.
Yeah.
And then more water. Does that mean that Amenhotep II was the pharaoh at the time of the Red Sea crossing? Don't know, but it's getting closer. All right. Now here's where I'm going to go super geography nerd for you. You're welcome. Exodus chapter 14 and 2 mentions a triangulation of places. Right? We've got in front of Pi Harath, between Migdol and the sea, and in front of Baal Zephon. All of those are significant. Why? I'll tell you. In front of Baal, in front of Pi Harath. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but we're looking right here. Okay? Right here. Migdol's right here. Okay? Now, don't forget, in ancient times, cities were far closer than what we're used to today. Because you either rode a camel or you walked between the cities. So a lot of the places like where Jesus walked from Canaan to Samaria, we could drive in like an hour and a half. And he walked all night to get there. Okay? Those sort of things. So let's get another view. This is actually over a satellite image. This is a reconstruction to the best of our knowledge of what the area would have looked like in that time. Did you know that coastlines change?
Yeah.
Did you know the state of Louisiana grows about 6 acres every single year because of the silt flowing down from the Mississippi Delta?
Did not know that.
If there's anything we need in this world, it is not more Louisiana, but this is also problematic for our theory of evolution. The rate at which Louisiana expands is constant. It has been measured for hundreds of years. If we take that same number and extrapolate it backwards a few 100 million years, the math ain't math. Okay? There should be no water on Earth.
Right.
Okay? Anyway, that was a freak. The church. So now we are here, right in this area. Here's Big Dog. Okay, we started out here. Remember Ramses, the ocean. There's our lovely Mediterranean Sea. The Nile River comes right in here. So somewhere right in here would be the king's palace. Right? So we come this way. Why do we go all the way down this way? Instead of going this way.
We're wandering in the wilderness. We're growing.
Not yet. There's a very specific way. Why do we not go that way?
Does it follow the water?
The Lord told Moses not to go the most straight direct route because that is the land of the Philistines, and there was a very good chance the Israelites would begin serving Philistine gods. Guess what? That happened a bunch of times, just not in this one, because Moses takes the scenic route going all the way down here.
Okay.
So, what we have is a triangulation that includes Baal Zephon. Prefix Baal means Baal was false god.
Yeah.
Large amount of
Prosperity.
Right.
He's a false god, basically.
Right.
Baal is like a pantheon of false gods, actually. This particular one, Baal Zephon, is both a place and somewhere right about in here, from as close as I can tell, there was most likely a monument or statue or some sort of tribute to Baal Zephon.
Okay.
Because what we just showed you at, we are at the mouth of 3 different places that enter into the Red Sea. Baal Zephon is the Egyptian god of the sea. So if I were a lovely multi-deity fella who liked to put up markers, the place where I would exit my homeland and enter the sea would be a great place for good tidings and blessings for the god known as Baal Zephon.
Right.
Right?
Now you get.
Now, this is not, this is a pretty nice little place here. Okay? New Wavy Beach. What is significant about New Wavy Beach? Glad you asked. New Wavy Beach, you can stand and see 2 of the 3 landmarks that are mentioned standing on this beach.
Oh.
The third one, what would have been the monument to Baal Zephon, is no longer there. Does that make this the place where the children of Israel crossed the Red Sea? Not necessarily, but it makes it worth looking into. Okay?
Right.
So, you see this little, not little, it's like a baby Grand Canyon over here. So what is happening in this area here is this is years of water running off from the lake above it into the Gulf and then into the Red Sea.
Right.
This is the only way to get here. It's somewhere in this area right here. I tried hard to make more pictures on it. I tried. But we're somewhere right here is this. The only access on that side. Does that make it the place where the children of Israel crossed the Red Sea? No? But it's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
What if King Solomon had erected a column that said, hey, this is the place where the children of Israel crossed the Red Sea? Does that help us?
No. That would do it.
And according to legend, okay, now, that's empirical data. We stepped away from empirical data because it said according to legend. There was another one on the other side in Saudi Arabia that said, hey, this is the place where the children of Israel crossed the Red Sea. That was supposedly removed by the Saudis. That's in Saudi Arabia on that side. Right? If you are a monotheistic religion and you're not Christian, having proof of the children of Israel having performed a miracle crossing the Red Sea might be something that you would want to obscure.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make this the place? No, but it makes it just a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So now we are back to our future. We are right here. Okay? This is the area that we're looking at. So this is 10,000 mile view. We're about to zoom in. As soon as it clicks. All right. So we zoomed into that specific spot. This is a layered map with colors that show you depth, slope, all that kind of things. This is a satellite image overlaid with this image right here. The green is the high point. Okay?
Right.
This is the most shallow part. And guess what? That right there is. That's the beach. Ruby Beach. Does that make it the site where the children of Israel crossed? I don't know, but it's looking closer. Now, can see these striations. These are levels of depth. This is probably 100 foot per line here.
Okay.
Okay, so right here, that's about a 500 foot drop off. And up there, that's probably close to an 800 foot drop off. But right here, right across from Big Beach here, the slant, and I know you were hoping I would bring some geometry to this. You're
Let's
welcome.
go. Let's go.
The slant is only 14 degrees on average.
Is that where that column of Solomon's is? On that beach?
Yeah, and we would reach or whatever.
Oh no,
Solomon's column on
New Wavy.
New Wavy Beach?
And is that what the beach is called where they were, is that what it says in the Bible? Like, is that what the beach?
It's not that specific.
Oh,
It gives us an area
I didn't.
of triangulation, but all of
I've
this,
never heard that name before, that's why.
all this kind of points in the same direction. Okay, so we have depth versus distance. This is our slope. 14 degrees is steep, but it is not unmanageable. A handicap ramp, for example, is 8 degrees. Yeah.
Right.
There are roads in the United States, interstate highways that are 16, 18, 20 degrees.
Right.
So 14 degrees is manageable. And it's also the best area for your slope over the much you have to go because it narrows down there.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make it the right spot?
Almost.
No, but it's looking good.
Was the building next to the slant for scale? Or-
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Can I go backwards? I don't know if I can go backwards. I'm sorry. Okay, yes, for scale, that is the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, built by us in Chicago. It's the same height as what the walls of water would have been.
Oh,
That is
wow.
half a mile tall.
Wow.
Think about anything that's half a mile tall.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the Grand Canyon is actually of water. Right?
Yeah.
So thank you for pointing that out to us.
And you said that's in Chicago, that tallest building, I was just
No,
curious.
that is in Abu Dhabi. The architects are in Chicago.
Oh, okay, I get it.
I'm sorry, I just went shop talking. Nessa Williams in Chicago is one of the biggest architecture firms in the entire world.
Okay.
They design that. All right, so somebody grab your Bible and read Exodus 14, 23, 28 out loud, quickly, go, go, go.
Exodus 14, what?
23 to 28.
Okay. It's in my NLT. It says, then the Egyptians, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and charioteers, chased them into the middle of the sea. And just before dawn, the Lord looked down on the Egyptian army from the pillar of fire and cloud, and threw their forces into total confusion. He twisted their chariot wheels, making their chariots difficult to drive. Let's get out of here, away from these Israelites, the Egyptians shouted. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt. When all the Israelites had reached the other side, the Lord said to Moses, raise your hand and look to the sea again. And the waters will rush back and cover the Egyptians and their chariots and charioteers. So as the sun began to rise, Moses raised his hand over the sea, and the water rushed back into its usual place. The Egyptians tried to escape, but the Lord swept them into the sea. Then the waters returned and covered all the chariots and charioteers, the entire army of Pharaoh. All of the Egyptians who had chased the Israelites into the sea obviously once survived.
Okay, so does finding things that look like chariot wheels in that exact location that are fossilized, does that mean it's the right location? We get pretty close. Okay? What's the point? Every bit of this is empirical data, extra biblical sources put together every bit of this time.
Yeah.
And that just so happens to fit exactly what Paul said.
Right.
But wait, there's more. The Armana letters. This is a whole other thing by itself. Referencing the kings going into war right now, their scrolls, these are clay tablets. They said, hey, look at me, look how amazing I am. These are fascinating if you want to go into that rabbit hole. So, Amenhotep III is the grandson of Amenhotep II, which is most likely the gentleman that collects and preserves this library. It's letters written to his grandpa, to him, you know, all down. He's both receiving these same sort of letters, if you will, and he's collected all of them. So there's over 300 that we make. Okay? So, these are letters written by the kings, if you will, of the city states in what is the Greater Egypt area, which later becomes the land of promise for the Israelites.
Right.
Okay? So you have all these little small cities, they're basically like their own state or municipality reporting back to Egypt. That's what these consist of. Okay? So, a group of people known as the Habiru is mentioned in the royal letters as being wandering people. Does that sound familiar?
What do they call them?
Wandering people. And they refer to them as Habiru.
What?
Habiru.
If
Habiru is not many translations away from Hebrew.
Yeah.
It's a very direct link. Now, here's the fun part. God does not refer to the Israelites as Hebrews.
Right.
Ever. You see God talking. It's the Israelites, the sons of Abraham, something that points to the family lineage. God does not call them Hebrews. The Hebrews themselves do not call themselves Hebrews. That was a name attached to them from an outside that just kind of got blended in over time.
Oh.
All right? Does that mean all this is true? We're getting real close. All right, and then the next mention of the Habiru is about 50-ish years later, and they are invading and conquering all the lands around the nation of Egypt. Does that sound anything like Joshua taking the promised land?
Yeah.
Could be a coincidence. Okay? Now, it's getting a little closer here. Yeah. Hopefully my phone will die because I wrote this down and then took a picture. So y'all just bear with me. Y'all talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, financing a hat seems like a lot. Do what you want.
I apologize, it's red ink. I hate red ink. All right, this is BC. The years are counting down to 0.
Yeah.
Now, one of the challenges that I educated myself on in getting exact time references for all this. Egyptians used a calendar of 360 days. All right? The lunar cycle is actually 365.23 days.
Right.
So there's a built-in margin of error of 5 1/4 days every year for thousands of years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You could be 40 years one way or the other and still be within the margin of error.
Wow.
All right? And to make things a little bit more confusing, all of the records that we have for the Israelites start at this point, at the Exodus. When they are leaving the Passover, God starts a new year, a new month, and a new day as the first day of Passover. Okay? So that is where we track plus or minus what the children of Israel done.
Okay.
So we have a pretty good idea where that day is, and then so many years after the Exodus, so many years after the Exodus. Okay? Solomon dedicated his temple 480 years after the Exodus. Okay? So we have X minus 480 equals X. Alright?
Alright.
Now, what if we took a list of the Egyptian pharaohs, who, by the way, had some crazy names? Carly, I should make you do this. This is like the world's lousiest version of Pictionary. All right. Starting in 1479 BC, counting downwards. Tutmosis III is the ruler.
I was also like that in high school.
Tutmosis III? I get that. All right. So, what happens if we plug our timeline of the story of the Exodus, when Moses was born, how old he was, into this? It fits perfectly again. Tutmosis is the pharaoh that raised him.
Okay.
Tutmosis III is the pharaoh that raised him. Now, once again, these are empirical data points within considerable work. So, take that can't be for what it is. The Quran actually says when Moses goes to Pharaoh to start doing the whole let my people go, no bad things happening. They have this little, hey bro, we were raised together. Huh. Me and you used to be homies, what's up with this? Because good old Amenhotep II was already alive here as well. Amenhotep II would have grown up with Moses, which is the Pharaoh. Okay? If the timeline works. Okay? Now, let's confuse things a little bit more. This dude was a co-regent with Tutmosis II. So Tutmosis II reign looks like this. This guy was kind of like a half pharaoh for part of it, just to make things a little bit more interesting.
Vice president.
Something like that. And if you take a timeline between when Moses was born to the time that he fled Egypt because he killed an Egyptian, and then come back when he's 80, we're right here.
Wow.
Okay? So if Amenhotep II is the grandfather of Amenhotep III, so we have a timeline between around 1400 to around 1352, which is plus or minus 48 years. We have records of the Hibaru attacking and conquering. Does all this mean that the Red Sea crossing was a real thing? I think we'll get pretty close. Ready? Now, if you take the same set of numbers and plug it into any other timeline, succession of pharaohs, besides this one, it doesn't work. This is the only timeline that works. Now, these are extra biblical sources.
Right.
But it just so happens, Moses was born, grew up with Amenhotep. This dude is doing something while Moses is in the wilderness. Moses comes back here, Amenhotep's like, bro. And then we have the Red Sea crossing is somewhere right in here. And we have our 40 years of wandering around. And next thing you know, it's 1352 and Amenhotep III is happening. And that is Christian archaeology in Christian politics. Any questions? Did I break anybody's brain? Because I definitely broke mine today. Yes? Huh? I broke your brain.
It kind of looks like Moses, like touch Moses.
It kind of does, don't it?
I
would not.
Guess what? Moses is an Egyptian name.
Yeah.
Thank you for catching that.
Because-
Moses was not his Hebrew name, it was his Egyptian name.
Right.
That's another quite interesting little coincidence there as well. Any questions?
So what Charlton Heston. Sorry. So whenever he was raised with, basically this Amenhotep, according to all this, is, works out right.
Charlton
So
Heston, Gilbrenner, yeah.
And he called him Ramses, it was because the place there was called Ramses, not because his name was called Ramses.
That's correct. And there are also a total of 12 Ramses.
Yes, sir.
Once again, we have very disparaging timelines as far as when all this happened. But if we start here and end here, everything fits.
Huh.
Any more questions?
Where's King Tut in the timeline?
Wait.
Okay,
Way later.
just wondering.
This is actually what's known as the 18th dynasty of Egyptian pharaohs. So they've been tracking this for 6,000 plus years up to this point. Okay? And there's a lot of pharaohs. So it makes it very interesting because there's some records when people were born, some records when people are dying. There's a lot of overlap. So, yeah. Alex.
I wouldn't get interrupt your point, but I also looked it up because I was wondering, and so it says that Moses died at 120, which means it was right there before,
80
yeah,
plus 40.
plus 40. And then that's before they started conquering, which was Joshua.
So it's
After
all
the
right
death of
there.
Moses.
So I just wanted to point that out too, because I was like, if the math points to that, and it does.
So every piece of empirical data we have lines up.
Yeah.
Now, there are some gaps. We don't know exactly how Moses was when he left Egypt. We do know he was 80 when he returned.
Right.
Okay? How long he was in Egypt before the plague started, how long the plagues took.
Yeah.
That's all questions that we don't have. But if we're looking in a margin of error of, say, even as close as 2 to 3 years. all things.
Yeah.
Why did I bother telling you all that?
To show
Tell us
that's
that we
important.
don't have to defend our faith.
To tell you your faith defend itself. when the plague
Amen.
is brought upon.
Right.
That's amen.
So we took,
You don't have to use the Bible to defend the Bible.
use the Bible for the Bible.
Love it.
So we took where the children of Israel were said to be, found those two places. Where the palace was said to be, found that. Where the intersection of Migdol and El-Zeroth. Oh, by the way, Migdol is a Egyptian outpost as well. That's a fortress. Okay. So when Moses, you remember how they kind of come down here, and then this, and come back this way, just for us.
Yeah.
This is why everybody is angry right here. Because they could keep going this way and eventually lose over the Red Sea and been okay. Moses led them back into the wilderness of Sinai. He has already come through this territory. He turns around and goes back there because that's where God told him.
Okay.
More questions?
I feel like I understand. I just didn't know, like, that's so cool.
No, no, I do
wish
tell
I
you,
had
I've
questions so I
been,
could hear more about it.
I have been researching this for, how long? At least probably 8 years.
Wow.
And the reason this caught me, I was reading this in my daily devotions. Okay? This entire story is 16 verses. You can read it in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That much information, that much information is contained in that story. About 16 verses. When we slow down and take a look, see, that's what we're doing. And there are other things that we could have discussed. I probably have, I don't know, maybe 10 or so of these. With other kings, other timelines. what I find the most interesting. Any more questions?
When do you start your YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Funny you should ask that.
Really?
I'm not starting.
Oh, man.
It's good news.
I have, do you have notes that you have, like, that, notes tab to look at?
Yes. Oh, students. Okay. What I have, I can send you the slides in my lecture notes, and I'll send you my sources. Let's add place, college. Send me an email, I will forward you all of my sources. There's a lot of people, a lot smarter than me, that put this together. All I do is connect the dots. All right. Is, that's great. No, we're using Quran. That's even a little bit more Bible. Did you have a question? You raised your hand, so you should have a question.
I always enjoy lab books. I think I really got it, so thank you. Yeah.
No nutrition. See, my point when I do labs is to make you think.
Yeah.
If we walk away from this and you're thinking, that's it. I don't want you thinking like me, I just want you thinking. So that's why I do crazy stuff. If you hang around me too long, I will brainwash you into thinking for yourself, thinking that you are who God says you are, you can do what God says you can do. That's my job. All right, it is 8:15, 8:20. Heather, close us out with word.
Father, in the name of Jesus, we come to you now. And we thank you just for this opportunity, that we thank you for this college, God, that this is a gift. And Father, I thank you for the opportunity that each and every student in this room has to learn and grow in your word so that they can lead well and that they can build the kingdom well. Father, I ask that you just bless each and every one as they go about their week. Encourage them, draw them nearer to you, God, to lean on you, Father, to go deeper in your word, to go deeper in their studies of your word. Guide their studies, guide their devotionals, guide their prayers, Father. God, I ask that you just bless them all immensely. And we thank you for each and every one of them, God. I ask that you just bless their thoughts. And I speak in the name of Jesus that they have the mind of Christ and the heart of Jesus. In the name we pray. Amen.
Now, you see why I say my wife's a better Christian than I am. You will hear me say that if you haven't known that. Yep. All right. Thank you very much for your attention and listening to me ramble, especially my two people who have already listened to me talk for an hour and 15 minutes today. You're dismissed. There is no class next week. Enjoy your 1 week without break.
Notice that has another fun fact. Sorry, get my.
I mean, you could show up if you want to. There might be somebody here that might not.
I didn't know, I need to write it on my calendar.
I will be doing my best to be in bed at like 8:30 or so.
Me too.
Pastor Brian, did you have anything before?
I do have one thing. If your instructors did not tell you, next week is fall break, so there's no class next week. Enjoy the night off. So we will then return the week after that. For Mark's students, if he didn't let you know, he is stepping down from being an instructor. So when you return, you will have a new instructor. Maybe. I haven't decided who it's going to be. So anyway, we're gonna heads up on those couple things. Enjoy your break. We'll be back. Oh, you are halfway through, by the way.